For the SUSE Linux Enterprise 200 level course, transitioning to SUSE Linux Enterprise 15, this is Lab 2.1. We're going to be running through an installation of SUSE Linux Enterprise 15. To begin with, I've started Server 1 and have switched to installation, where I'm going to be performing my actual installation. So I've got an installation. I select enter and then wait for it to boot up. This does take a few moments, but not terribly long. We're going to give it just a little bit of time to get there. All right, it's finished its boot up, and now we're presented with our first set of choices. First, our language, our keyboard layout where we can test it, and of course our product selection. Now, SUSE Linux Enterprise Server 15 is the one we're going to be selecting and using today. There is also High Performance Computing 15, the SUSE Linux Enterprise Server for SAP Applications 15, and of course SUSE Linux Enterprise Desktop 15. We select the one we want. Now, this selection does affect what options are available to you down the line. We're going down the server route. So we select that. And then we're asked to read and make sure that we agree to the license terms. There's a lot of information there. We don't recommend that you necessarily memorize all of it, but you should be familiar with the contents. We select next and continuing on. Now, since we were not offered an IP address via DHCP, it will bring us directly to the network settings page. And we're going to set a static IP address. So we're just going to select edit on this and put 172.16.221 is what we're setting it to. And the host name is going to be server 1. Okay. And then we click the next button and select routing, because we have to have a route somewhere. 172.16.2.1. And then we click next. It's going to go ahead and move on to our registration. Now, registration, we're not going to be putting in a registration code today. However, we can at any time come back and add a registration code to an already installed server should we need to. You can do that through YAST. We're going to add an additional product. Our install today is technically an offline install, meaning we're not connected to an RMT, the new version of the SMT tool. SMT, which is the old version called a software management tool. It's now called a repository management tool. Or to SCC to download new products. So we're going to select DVD. We have an additional ISO we're going to connect to. It's on that particular device, and we're going to select which extensions and modules we want to install. We want to do the base system module, the desktop applications module, and the server applications module, which is found near the bottom. We then click next, and it continues on. Now, it's going to prompt us. It's going to say, we have these 3 new repositories to add, and we can see them. They're actually not really repositories. They're saying where those modules and extensions are coming from. As you can see, they're from the same DVD. Adding those in. And then we're selecting what type of install. We're just going to do a SLES with GNOME or GNOME interface. We're not going to do the text, the minimal, or the virtualization host version. All right, we're then prompted to set up our partitioning. We're going to go ahead and just accept the defaults. It's not terribly important in this particular machine what this be set to. And then it's going to ask us about our time zone. Now I'm in the US Mountain Time, so I'm setting that. And then it's going to ask me for a user. I'm going to create a simple user called Tux, and the password is just Linux. And I'm setting that as the administrator's password, the root password as well. When I click next, it's going to say, are you sure? Because that's not a really good password. I agree it's not, but for demonstration it works nicely. It will then say what software and other options. We can do things like allowing SSH through the firewall and so forth. We're not going to change any of this. We're going to leave it just the way it is and go ahead and click install. It will say, are you sure? And we're going to say yes, go ahead. And there our install will now kick off and run.